show where we pick apart your Bible here, find all the inconsistencies, all the bullshit, and put them in line so you guys can memorize them and use them the next time a Christian, or some derivative of that faith, comes at you saying that you're wrong and they're right, and now you can tell them everything that's wrong with their own damn book. Alright, so if you're just joining us, we just finished Genesis in our last couple episodes. Now we are focusing on Exodus, which is when the Israelites leave Egypt. Everybody knows the stories of Moses, stuff like that. So that's where we're going to start. And things get pretty fucked up off the get-go. This first one I'm going to quote here, I love it because it proves that not everybody is flawless, okay? Christians tend to put their prophets, put their deity, put the important people in the Bible up on this infallible pedestal, but right here in the Bible, it shows that they are not perfect and that they are indeed hypocrites in their own way. Okay, we are at Exodus 2.11 to 0.12, and it says, "Time passed and Moses grew up. One day he went and saw his brothers, saw all of their hard labor. Then he saw an Egyptian hit a Hebrew. One of his relatives, in fact. He looked this way and then that, and when he realized nobody was looking, he killed the Egyptian and buried him in the sand." At this time in Egypt, the Israelites were slaves, and they got hit, they got whipped, all of this all the time. And this one incident that Moses sees, nobody's looking, he scopes the place out, and he goes and kills the Egyptian. Thou shalt not kill. Alright, Moses just damned himself to hell right there, or purgatory. At this point, hell doesn't exist yet. Further on, this is where God is introducing himself to Moses. Okay. Moses raised another objection to God. "Master, please, I don't talk well. I've never been good with words. Neither before have you spoken to me. I stutter and stammer against my will." God said, "And who do you think makes the human mouth? And who makes some mute, some deaf, some sighted, and some blind? Isn't it I, God?" This is God admitting to willingly give people birth defects. I know we can't all be perfect, but really, if you create them in your own image, why aren't you making them all as perfect as you? Why is God picking favorites? Why is God picking people to screw with for his own enjoyment, it would seem? Oh, the last one was 4.11 to 4.12. Further down, when God's telling Moses the plan, God said to Moses, "When you get back to Egypt, be prepared. All the wonders that I will do through you, you'll do before the Pharaoh. But I will make him stubborn, so that he will refuse to let your people go." Once again, this is God being just a general dick. He's making Moses and his people stay where they don't want to be because God wants to toy with the Pharaoh. That's it. He could just as easily let Moses and his people go on their merry way and sit there and fuck with the Pharaoh after the fact. You know, spare Moses and his people more slavery, more death, more rape. Egyptians did that. And more suffering. But no, he's making the Pharaoh stubborn. Which implies that the Pharaoh's actually a pretty nice guy. So, I'm not quite sure what God's plan is here. Alright, here's one that I like. Throughout the entire Bible, God likes to make the point that he's the only God and that only he can perform miracles. Alright. So, Moses and Aaron went to the Pharaoh and did what God commanded. Aaron threw his staff down in front of the Pharaoh and his servants, and it turned into a snake. The Pharaoh called in his wise men and sorcerers. The magicians of Egypt did the same thing with their incantations. Each man threw down his staff, and they all turned into snakes. But then Aaron's staff swallowed them all. If God is the only God and God is the only one capable of creating miracles, then how are the Pharaoh's magicians capable of repeating what he did? Alright, this passage basically says not everybody can do what God does, but there are other people who can. God just does it the best. Kind of like, walk into the room with biggest stick and nobody fucks with you. This just seems to go against what God preaches and what he tries to state, that he is the only one capable of doing these things. And this isn't the only one. It pops up with every one of the strikes, so we should call it. And that was Exodus 7.11 to 12, by the way. And in 9.7, they recreate the frogs, the flies, we've got animals. Oh, we have number 6, boils. This is Exodus 6.2. Okay. The magicians weren't able to compete with Moses this time because of the boils that they were covered in, like everybody else in Egypt. God then hardened the Pharaoh's stubbornness. He wouldn't listen, just as God had said to Moses that the Pharaoh wouldn't. This scene, the magicians can reproduce the boils, but they can't because they're covered in boils. It's like the last scene, not the last scene, but close to it, the end of Gladiator, where the Emperor goes in, Gladiator's sitting there hanging, and he shanks him so he can win the next match. God's just sitting there going, fuck you. Fuck you. Don't recreate my miracles. You can't. I'm covering you in boils. Fuck you. He's stopping them by causing them harm. And then he makes the Pharaoh more stubborn so that the Pharaoh won't let his people go. Even though probably on the inside, the Pharaoh's sitting there screaming, yeah, get them the fuck out of my country. They're covering my people in boils. Get them the hell out of here. And here, alright, this is the locust plague. Exodus 10.1 to 2. God said to Moses, go to Pharaoh. I've made him stubborn. Him and his servants, so that I can force him to look at these signs, and so you'll be able to tell your children and grandchildren how I toyed with the Pharaoh like a cat with a mouse. Okay? Most cats, when they fuck with a mouse, they can't control the mouse. Most cats, when they play with a mouse, don't know where the mouse is going, what the mouse can do, where his hidey holes and stuff are. And they don't make the mouse fight them. It's more of an instinct thing, where the mouse wants to live, not the cat making the mouse stay in one spot, not the cat making the mouse run into a corner. It's herded. Alright? This is nothing like a cat and a mouse. Whoever translated this passage picked the wrong words, because what I take away from this is God's toying with the Pharaoh like a cat toying with a mouse that he telepathically has control over. Which takes all the sport out of it for me. But to each their own, I guess. Okay, I like to compare God to a dictator at this point. Because this is what he says. Exodus 15.26. We've skipped ahead a little bit. God said, if you listen obediently to how God tells you to live in his presence, obeying his commands and keeping all his laws, then I won't strike you with all the diseases that I inflicted on the Egyptians. I am God, your healer. Didn't Hitler use the same kind of ruling philosophy? If you follow me, I will not kill you. Didn't Mussolini and Saddam Hussein use the same mentality? Maybe this is where they got it from. I bet you. Okay. I think we got time for one more here, or so my little clock here tells me. This is our last one for today. This is still Exodus 20.4 to 6. Okay. God said, don't bow down to them and don't serve them, because I am God, your God. And I am a most jealous God, punishing the children for any sins their parents pass on to them, to the third and yes, even the fourth generation of those who hate me. That's a little fucking extreme, don't you think? Like, yeah, I admit, I fully enjoy having a drink and committing a sin here or there. Whether it's being greedy and wanting a raise out of my boss. I'm not necessarily drunk when I do that. Or, taking pride in what I do. You know, you see guitars and that in the background. I consider myself to be a pretty decent musician. I don't think my kid should suffer for that. Actually, I'm pretty sure if my kid rebels, he won't be a musician at all, and he'll be sick of guitars by the time he's 6 or 7. But then for his kid to be punished because I take pride in my music, I don't think so. This is a little fucked up, and this is proof that God is a jealous son of a bitch. And if you're following somebody who's that jealous, it's kind of like being in like one of those relationships you see in a movie, right? The guy's stalking you and won't let you do anything else. I think people need to read this more closely and think about it and question it, and stop following it to a T on Facebook and being jealous of people, talking to other people. But anyways, that's all I have for today. Once again, I do apologize for the delay in making the videos. Life seems to want to disrupt all this, and I seem to not listen to it, so we're going to keep on going, and hopefully all the sound issues and video quality issues I can clear up. I had complaints about that last time. Okay, if you have any suggestions, questions you have, throw them in the comments, absolutely. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that share button so other people can see what I'm doing and take things away from this if you need. I'm going to try to put things in the comments more, you know, the verses and that I go over, so you don't have to rewind the video and write things down as you go. You can just go look. And once again, if you want to get a hold of a Bible so you can bookmark these yourself and do a little reading yourself, you can always get them from churches. Just walk up and say, hey, I need a Bible. They usually hand them to you, no questions asked. You know, if you visit hotel rooms a lot, you can swipe them from there. They are yours to take, or so people will say. You know, you can also go online to different churches, different organizations and that, and say, hey, can you hook me up with a Bible? They usually ship it to you free of charge to spread the word. Things like that. As I've said before, the version of the Bible I'm using is called the Contemporary Version. It's the old text translated into ways that normal people, well, not normal, everybody's different and unique in their own way, that modern contemporary people can read and understand without all the comeths and goeths. They've done away with the ifs. So if you have any more questions about stuff like that, let me know. Other than that, I hope you have a great week. I hope you've taken away things here that you can use next time that you're getting harassed, emailed, threatened, stuff like that. You can throw some of these at them and say, hey, your God's fucked up more than mine. Whether you're an atheist or some other religion, or you just happen to worship coffee like I do. Speaking of which, I need more coffee, so I'm going to go grab one of those. You guys have a great day, and as always, keep on firing.